Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news. How are we feeling this morning? There's lots to get involved with. Roy Keane and other ex-players sort of taking a pop at Ten Hag in their defence of Ronaldo, to be expected. What are your thoughts on that? Also, Rafael Varane looking like he's going to miss the World Cup. We'll have the latest on that. Apparently, unconfirmed reports are that it will be a hamstring injury. Look, I'm not one of those people that are there going that Harry Maguire's smiling or anything like that. It's professional football, it's a foul, and obviously Maguire will benefit from that. It was the only way him and Lindelof were going to benefit, so we can talk about that as well. But look, you know, the first thing I want to say here is that Roy Keane is a legend of Manchester United and Cristiano Ronaldo is a legend of Manchester United, and I don't want to live in a world where we disagree with them and then we throw them on the scrap heap. That's not the world we should live in. Erik Ten Hag is the manager of Manchester United right now, and the manager should be backed, whether we like it or not, because at the end of the day, you don't want to be in a situation like we did with Mourinho, where the players turn on him, the club back the players, and a manager walks out, and then 3 years later you're going, all right, he did deserve to be sacked, but a lot of what he said was right. Manchester United need to back the manager. Whether we agree with that or not, you do need to back the manager. The manager must be right. And I feel that, look, the traffic light system, green is positive, red is negative, and amber is what I think the world is. It's right and wrong. Roy Keane said a lot of things last night I don't agree with. He came out with two things which I think he's absolutely spot on. Hello, surprise, surprise. Somebody isn't 100% wrong and somebody isn't 100% right. I thought Ten Hag is 100% right, but one of his comments last night about Rashford was wrong. So, look, you know, Scholes said that moving Bruno to the left wing was a bad substitution. We'll talk about that. Ten Hag's not going to be 100% right, and Roy Keane's not going to be 100% wrong. But Ten Hag is the manager, and we've got to back that manager, in my opinion. So lots to get into this morning. If you didn't catch any of it, I suppose the best thing to do to start off with is for me to say this. Look, this is the one that really sort of got my back up from Roy Keane. Obviously, he backed Ronaldo. I felt the backing of Ronaldo by Roy and Rio yesterday is support is earned, not given. Respect the legend, says Nate. Yeah, but Nate, Ten Hag's the manager, mate. He's the manager. What, he's got to earn your respect over a player that walked out on you on Thursday night. Come on, you know, call it what it is. And that was my problem yesterday. When I listened to Rio and I listened to Roy, they're going, well, yeah, you know, it's not acceptable what he's done, but, you know, he's a legend of the game. It's sort of understandable, his communication, and, yeah, it's just, you know, basically, they want to stick up for Ronaldo, but they haven't got a leg to stand on because he stormed out in front of 75,000 fans. I get why they want to stick up for him. Ten Hag will be a club legend, says Poddy. I get why they want to stick up for him, but the reality is they can't stick up for somebody who walked out, and they can't stick up for the fact that he was suspended for the game yesterday. But I've consistently said this, and I think some people agree with me, I know no ex-player wanted Ten Hag. I know the media didn't want Ten Hag. I know all the Manchester United correspondents, whether it's Manchester Evening News or Athletic or whatever, didn't want Ten Hag. They didn't. They publicly didn't go, this is the man. They're backing him now, whether they like to or whether they're doing it because they have to, I don't know. But they didn't want Ten Hag. And we spoke about this in February and March. The only people who wanted Ten Hag was you. The fans wanted Ten Hag and the club appointed Ten Hag. The media, the ex-players, nah, we don't know anything about this guy. You know why they didn't want Ten Hag, and you know why he will be put under pressure and why comments like this will happen more and more and people will dig into any weakness they can find. Because Ten Hag is a reset, and a reset basically closes down all the WhatsApp groups, all the leaks, all the power for the media and everybody close to the club. All the leaks they were getting, all the WhatsApps they could send to Carricky and everyone like that, they can't do it anymore because they don't know Van der Gaag. And McLaren will get the sack if he does it. And Ten Hag, they don't know. The reason they didn't want Ten Hag is because Ten Hag represents barriers up around Manchester United, which is what needed to happen. A complete and utter reset where it's not a mate, you haven't got him on WhatsApp, and the players, if they leak, will be out of the team. That is why nobody really wanted Ten Hag. Poch was the guy that's been on Monday Night Football. Poch is the guy that sat there and spoken to them. Poch is the guy that everybody knows. And Ten Hag isn't. And that is why there will always be this mistrust of Ten Hag. And you see it popping out all the time. They haven't got him on WhatsApp. They haven't got him coming round for dinner. They haven't got that. So it makes them feel uncertain. And they don't feel like they have that into the club anymore. They're just a fan like everybody else. Well, the fans want Ten Hag like that because they need people like Maguire and Shaw kicked out the team because they're not playing well. Ronaldo suspended if he does that. They need, rotation. They need to see a manager dropping Fred, even though he played well for Eriksen because the manager believes Eriksen's a better player. This is the step forward for United, and that's why we've seen it in the last few games. Ronaldo doesn't work with Ten Hag's system because he's too slow. Rashi does, but can't finish. If it only were possible to combine them, says Juan. Well, I want to come back to that because one of the things I agreed with Roy Keane is that I think we are a better team with Ronaldo in the team, and I might be in the minority there, but I'll explain why in a minute. But I absolutely 100% agree with why Ronaldo's not in the team at the moment. And I do have a big problem with this. I mean, this was a direct quote from Roy, and he basically Ten Hag obviously has got big decisions to make. He's got to win football matches, but he's not winning enough of them. United are 5th in the league, and then he went on to say that the win against Spurs on Wednesday, people were acting like they'd won the European Cup or the league or something like that. And I think this is. I don't really care about the Ronaldo stuff. I've got to be honest. I want to move on from the Ronaldo stuff. Ex-players who played with Ronaldo back Ronaldo. Wow, it's like the old mates club, isn't it? I detest this sort of behaviour in football, in real life. These people who just because they're mates with somebody, they back them no matter what. I've never met you, but my mate says you're a knobhead, so you're a knobhead. Idiotic approach to life. Stupid loyalty. Ultimately, people look out for themselves. Loyalty, bullshit, nonsense. It's a waste of time because you cannot side with Ronaldo because you used to play with him 10 years ago over a manager you've never bloody met, who is the manager of Manchester United. It's short-sighted, and that is why football has moved on in the last 10 years, because that sort of approach... I'm sorry, if you said to the United side that was prime, 99, go and press for 90 minutes and play modern football, they'd get absolutely annihilated. Football's moved on. And these old friendships are great. They're great for a little, evening with such and such, but in the modern football world... you can't have that. You've got to do what's best for the team, and that's what Ten Hag is trying to do. As for the fact that we're 5th, this is a brand new manager who is taking over the worst ever Manchester United Premier League side from last season, and he's got us in 5th place, having beaten Arsenal, who were top of the league, Liverpool, who are one of the best teams in the league. All right, they're not this year, but they're good. Spurs have been played off the park, they're top 4, and Chelsea, we've been robbed. We've been robbed, really. Good finishing, bad finishing robbed us against Chelsea. So, yeah, Ten Hag needs to worry about bad results. We've had a much harder start to the season than everybody else, and we've had some fantastic results. Granted, Man City was a bloody annihilation. Oh, surprise, surprise, Man City smacked us up. They could do that to anybody. Apart from the Man City game, the only 2 bad results we've had was Brighton and Brentford, where the team has been completely redone. No Anthony, no Casemiro, no Varane. It's a completely different side to the side that played against Brighton and Brentford with a completely different approach. We've lost one game under Erik Ten Hag. So I will call that out because, look, people can disagree about the Ronaldo situation, but I will not have it, and I don't think most United fans will have it, that Ten Hag is doing a bad job. I feel that to go to Stamford Bridge yesterday and for 35 minutes force a manager at home to change his tactics shows the progress that we're making. People act like we're 5th in the league and we're not doing well, like we've been playing good football for a decade. Woken up from your coma, have you? Come on. The football we've played over the last 10 years has been, in the main, boring. Boring football. And we've just watched 2 games of football where... All right, we've not won both of them, but we've just played 2 games of football against top 4 sides where you go, we were the better side. We were the better footballing side. We played the better football. We've basically limited Chelsea to counter-attacking football mainly, and Spurs. That's progress. So 5th place in the league or not, it's a 38-game season. So I will argue that. I will argue that, and I think that we need to be very careful of that. Forget the Ronaldo thing. We need to be very, very careful about the fact that ex-players and media didn't want Ten Hag. And they were always going to keep that in their head because everybody in life, whether you like it or not, everybody in life, in their little brains or big brains, loves to go, I was right. I was right. They shouldn't have gone with Ten Hag. He doesn't know about the Premier League. They should have gone with Pochettino or Simeone or whatever else decision other people wanted. So... as fans, we wanted Ten Hag, and we've got to be protective of our manager that we wanted. 1, because he's the manager, and the manager must be allowed to manage. But 2, it's the manager we wanted, and a lot of people didn't want him. So they will start turning on him. And Mark, these ex-players are part of the reason why our club cannot move on from the past. Difficult decisions need to be made, says Amir. We need to get another centre-back in January, Mark. Who do you think Ten Hag will go for? I'm going to come back to that, Sam. The ex-players would rightly criticise players for throwing manager under the bus, and now when the players are clearly playing for the manager, the ex-players are throwing the manager under the bus, says Gurav. Mark, and also, Mark, can you stand up so I can see the jumper properly? If you're feeling extra jazzy, give us a spin, says Joshua. I forgot to say this. Quite a lot of people have ordered our Christmas jumper. It's available for pre-order and it's shipping out next week. If you want to get one, we do ship worldwide, and they are available. It's our first ever knitted jumper. Absolutely amazing. It sort of commemorates 20 times. You've got 13 Premier League trophies and 7 old Division 1 trophies on there. And it does, I don't think I can twist around, but there is a number 20 on the back. So you can order yours. They're going fast. Once they're gone, they're gone. Links in the description or the live chat. They do ship worldwide. Get your orders in. Thank you for reminding me, Joshua. I was caught in the rhythm. Cause division in the fan base. The peasants will destroy themselves. Think about if there's only one winner and it's the Glazers, says Mark. Right, yes. So, yeah, Dougie says these same people also continue to defend Ollie. So, look, I would argue this with anybody. Somebody said last night you wouldn't say that face-to-face to Roy Keane or Gary Neville or Rio Ferdinand. Mate, you know I would. You know I would. They wouldn't do it with me because they'd probably, be worried about, I don't know what they're worried about. They're legends of the club. I would happily sit and have these conversations with them because ultimately, I don't think this conversation is only happening on social media. It's not happening on the mainstream because the mainstream's a closed shop, and that's fine. But it's the same old nonsense all the time. I could predict this. I knew this was going to happen. I knew Ten Hag would be the fall guy, and it's not because of Ronaldo. It's because they don't really want Ten Hag in charge. I've never heard such nonsense in my life. I've never heard such nonsense in my life that Ten Hag hasn't had a good start to the season, that he's under pressure, that he's got big decisions to make. Like, are you watching the games? The one thing about football fans is, whether it's Arsenal fans, United fans, or whoever, is that you tend to watch every minute of every game because you love it. And you know what's different, and you know the momentum. And there's no way in a million years that penalty last night, we come back and equalise last year. In fact, Chelsea would probably go and win 3-0 with 10 minutes to go. We go and draw the game. So the change in the mentality, the culture, the style of football, you'd have to be bloody, get yourself down Specsavers not to see it. Sad the Glazers turned Eric Ten Hag and Ronaldo against one another, says no filter. I mean, we can talk about Ronaldo in a little bit because there's a story about him going to Chelsea, but I really want to delve into this because, you know what, I think that, and look, Roy Keane did say this. He said he's got to take his punishment. The big problem for Manchester United throughout the season has been scoring goals. And this, but you know what, let's be even-handed here because I think as a community we are very good at this. I don't trust Keane since he says we're trying to help Maguire up here, give him a little bit of PR, says Ramo. But you know what? As much as I don't agree with some of the ex-players yesterday, this is where you can learn a lesson about life. And I learned this lesson 20 years ago, is if you don't like something, don't necessarily dislike everything. So if you get a plate of food and you try the vegetables and you don't like it, doesn't mean the potatoes, gravy, meat, whatever isn't good. So I disagree with what Roy Keane said yesterday about Ten Hag, effectively, 5th place, not doing that well, etc. But then I think he came out with something that was absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. And people will ignore it because they're pissed off with Roy Keane backing Ronaldo or, having a little pop at Ten Hag. He then says this: Leicester at the bottom of the league have scored more goals than Man United. For the attacking players United have, that's not enough. You give them credit towards the end of the game, they find an equaliser, but they need more of a goal threat going forward. And you know what? I absolutely 100% think that is spot on. That is absolutely spot on. So you can disagree with Roy Keane on some things, and this is where people get lost. They have these idols, whether it is a Ronaldo or a Messi or a Roy Keane or a Robbie Williams or bloody Boris Johnson, whoever. Like, some people will have him as an idol, right? And everything they say, they agree with, and everything they take a pop at, they agree with. But the problem is, and you'll learn this in life, is that your idols have got... I've never met anybody in life that's perfect. Everybody has flaws. More flaws than a tower block, right? So, I love Roy Keane. He's one of my favourite players to ever play the game, right? Off the pitch, he comes out with stuff I just go, I don't agree with that. I want to agree with it because I want to believe everything he says is brilliant, but I don't agree with it. I couldn't believe what he said about that tackle on Luke Shaw a few years ago. And I think there is a bitterness there towards Manchester United sometimes. But there will be things where you go, he's absolutely spot on, and he's absolutely spot on with that. Now, I don't know whether we've scored more goals, less goals than Leicester, but I think that is a really good point after the game yesterday. A really good point. We are not scoring enough goals. There is always room for improvement. We should have won the game yesterday, and we should have beat Newcastle. We should have 4 more points. Not might have, should have. We should have beat Chelsea yesterday. Graham Potter, after 35 minutes at home, doesn't wait till half time, 10 minutes. He does it there and then because he's crapping himself. He knew, Potter, he probably couldn't wait 10 minutes to half time to make that tactical change. That means that Potter has made that change at 35 minutes because he is terrified and also acknowledges lucky not to be losing the game. In that 35 minutes, we've got to score at least 1 goal, and we didn't. And against Spurs, same thing happened in the first half. We didn't score the goals. Now, fortunately, we did it in the second half, but we are not clinical enough. I think the back 5, Casemiro, Eriksen or Fred, Bruno, they are doing a fantastic job. They're driving the press high up the pitch, and the midfield is supporting the attack to press. But at the moment, the positives about Sancho aren't very there. Rashford's a bit better, and Anthony's about the same. The positives about Sancho, Anthony and Rashford is they're running around a lot. But their final ball, their creativity and their finishing is not good enough. I would go as far as to say, if you put Saka, Martinelli and Jesus as our front 3, we'd be in the top 2. Based on how we're playing over the last few weeks, we'd be in the top 2. We are lacking a cutting edge up front, and Roy Keane is absolutely spot on. That front 3 are letting us down. Anthony has scored goals, but I think he disappeared in the second half yesterday. Sancho, for a guy who was born in London, disappeared. And Rashford, well, he's just not a striker. He's just not clinical enough. So, look, I'm not critical of United yesterday, but we should have won the game. And Roy Keane's right. We haven't got a cutting edge. And therefore, you start saying, well, you know, would Ronaldo do better? And that's the question, isn't it? We need a striker. Mark, which one striker will you buy for United if you're in charge of the team, says Nandon. And if Erik Ten Hag keeps playing Sancho, we've got no chance, says Robert McCormack. And Rashford as a striker is stubborn on this one. Give him some more time to change chance to Ronaldo, says Raj. No, you know what? I will keep saying this. You lot did not deserve to beat Newcastle. 9xG to 8. Behave. Mate, it was 0-0 and we missed a sitter in the last minute. We should have won the game. You parked the bus in the second half. You had your chance in the first half and you blew it. So, you know, we should have beaten you. It was a sitter for Rashford and he missed it. And that's my point. People think, and look, you know what? We're always even-handed here. Let's have a look at what Ten Hag said about Rashford. I'm really happy with the energy that he's bringing to our team. I'm really happy with his performance again. Look, that's a manager backing his player. That's absolutely fine. But I'm telling you now, if he'd said that about Ronaldo, when Ronaldo had a bad game, people would go mad. Rashford scored no goals in 4 games. He should have 7. I counted 7 goals in the last 4 games. And I'm not talking half chances. Got to score. 7 chances in 4 games. He's got to score. He's got none. That's not... All right, it might be a striker out of form. Marcus Rashford is a very, very good player from the left-hand side. I would love somebody to tell me how many goals he's scored from the left and how many he's scored through the middle. He's got to play off the left. Sancho needs dropping. Rashford's got to go to the left. But the problem is, does he want to pick Ronaldo anymore? And Martial's injured. So we're playing Rashford through the middle. Rashford's off the left is 10 times better than he is up front. I watched United yesterday. The only way we can get Rashford into the game is that sprint. It's always the same. It's the sprint. It's the sprint into pace. He can't hold the ball up. He can't feed people into the game. He can't win the ball in the air. And he's not physical. Look at Erling Haaland, right? Erling Haaland is scoring goals in the penalty box. Rashford's rubbish in the penalty box. He's got no idea about movement in the penalty box because that's about crosses and everything, which he's not good at. The only similarity between Rashford and Haaland is the counter. If you can get some space, knock it into pace, yes. Haaland, Rashford, very similar, but Haaland will finish and Rashford will miss. Haaland's brilliant in the air. He's brilliant at holding the ball up. He's brilliant in the box. So you're telling me Marcus Rashford's a striker when he's no good in the air, he's not physical, he's no good in the box, he can't hold the ball up. There's one element of Rashford's game that we see. That's the through ball. He's brilliant at that. Are we going to build a team around a player that runs around a lot? Come on, you've got to have more to your game like that. He's either got to massively improve in areas I don't think he can, or he needs to go back to the left wing, which he's our best left winger. He is our best left winger. Sancho has, I don't know what we're going to do with Sancho, but Rashford needs to go to the left. But then the problem is that the team doesn't play as well when Ronaldo's in it for some reason. So Martial can't get fit. So we're going to have to buy someone. Really hope ref decisions don't define this season. We dropped a potential 4 points to VAR. It's been inconsistent, says Vicky. I don't really want to talk about the penalty yesterday, but I haven't woken up and gone, yes, it was a penalty. I still think it was a shocking call. And, I'm not interested in what Chelsea fans have got to say, because Chelsea fans are going to say it's a penalty. I would have said it was a penalty if it happened against us, because you got your bias. But I'm telling you now, I'm doing Arsenal-Southampton at 2 o'clock on That's Football. I guarantee you there'll be a penalty that won't be given for grabbing on in the box. And then I'll be proved right. But, the big problem with it for me is that, you see that penalty on Broja yesterday by McTominay, which for me is just never a penalty. And then you go back to Newcastle and you go, Ronaldo and Sancho, no penalty, but you're given a penalty for that. It's just rubbish. Rashford isn't the player you think he is. He needs to go immediately. Big shame, because he's an excellent off-field representative, says Rogan. I think Rashford's the answer off the left wing to me. But you know what? I'm 100% behind Ten Hag, but I think that's just noise to back a player who's out of form, and I agree with it. And some people won't know that. They'll go, what is he on about, protecting his favourite? He's protecting the only striker he's got. If he comes out and says, Rashford's playing rubbish at the moment, might need to drop him, he's got nobody else. Ten Hag will think that Rashford's got a confidence problem, and he's right to a certain extent, because if Rashford could sort his finishing out, he'd probably have 3 or 4 goals. He can score goals for us, but he's not the number 9 I want. Even if he scores 10, 15 goals, he's not the number 9 I want. He's just too much. He's too... You know what Rashford reminds me of? And he's not even as good as him. Andy Cole. Andy Cole was a really quick number 9. Van Nistelrooy, no, he's not like Van Nistelrooy. He's not like Ray Rooney. He's not like Van Persie. He's not like Chicharito. He's not like Louis Zaha, because he was left-footed. He reminds me of Andy Cole, but not a good Andy Cole. Andy Cole was ridiculously quick, but Andy Cole could, he could win the ball in the air. He could hold the ball up. He wasn't the best footballer in relation to link-ups, Andy Cole, but Andy Cole, compared to Marcus Rashford, is like that. And I've heard people, he's just... He's not even Jamie Vardy. Jamie Vardy's another player, a striker that relies on pace. But Vardy can finish. Rashford's a winger. He's a winger, that's what he is. And we're having to use him up front. And we had to use him up front yesterday. I've got no argument with that. But look, I do agree with Keane about that. We're not scoring enough goals for how we're dominating games. And we're not scoring enough goals because our front three are letting us down creativity-wise. And, that's how I feel. Feel sad about Ronaldo and Ten Hag. It's like being in between two best friends fighting. I understand both parties. I do think he's our best option up front, says Daniel. Well, look, I want to talk about Varane, but let me just talk about Ronaldo. I think with Ronaldo, look, I know a lot of people are very angry, but there's two things here. That I'm going to say, right? Against Sheriff on Thursday, Ronaldo needs to play up front and Harry Maguire needs to play at centre-back. And they are both as prickly topics as you can get, but they have got to play. The return of Maguire and Ronaldo feels like last season, doesn't it? Because those two were at loggerheads and United were shit. We've moved away from that and we've been playing some of the best football we've seen at United. But Varane has a hamstring injury. That is the rumour. Now, it didn't look like a hamstring injury to me with Varane. He obviously fears that he's out of the World Cup. But, Varane has a hamstring injury is the rumour. That puts him probably 6 weeks out of the World Cup. Definitely out of our next 3 Premier League games. Maguire will play instead of Varane. People will say, what about Lindelof? I will tell you now, and I will give out 100 United Stand memberships next Sunday if Maguire doesn't start next to Martinez. Unless Varane's fit, which I don't think he is. And I'll tell you why Maguire will play ahead of Lindelof. And I agree. There is a very, very fair argument to say that Lindelof is as good as Maguire, if not better. I agree, it's close. But I will tell you why Maguire's going to play for Manchester United. He's the captain. That's not the reason. He will play because he's tall. He will not play Lindelof and Martinez because Varane is 6'4" or 6'3". and he will want Maguire's aerial ability. So Maguire's coming straight back into that team. He's going to be centre-back. Now, does that make us weaker? Yes. Yes. Not because Harry Maguire's been a bit crap for the last 18 months. He's just not Rafael Varane. That defence is weaker without Varane and Martinez in it. So Maguire's coming straight back into that team. And we need to hope as a fan base that he's had the break he needs and he comes back and he's focused. It's a different job for Harry now because he's got Martinez who's established next to him and he's the senior centre-back, not Maguire. Martinez is the senior centre-back. He's the leader. You've got Dalot who's established at right-back and he's got Casemiro and De Gea behind him who are doing really well. So Maguire's just got to come in and focus on his game. In many ways, he should take the captaincy off him. It won't happen, but Maguire coming into that team as captain is illogical. Absolutely illogical. Now, nobody will have this conversation, and I would like to have seen a Gary Neville doing it or someone else yesterday. It's absolutely illogical to keep Harry Maguire as captain. He leads that team out when he's had nothing to do with why it's successful, and then he's on the pitch leading a team that's been doing very well without him. The captaincy should stay with Bruno because he's been leading that team, and Maguire should focus on his game coming into a back five he's not played in and maybe the weakest link in it. But no, Maguire will lead the team out, and I think that is the wrong decision. But him playing, he will play. And Ronaldo needs to play on Thursday because unless Martial's fit. If Martial's fit, it's a different story. But Ronaldo needs to play on Thursday because we desperately need an alternative. Now, he may well keep playing Rashford up front, but if Rashford keeps doing what he's doing, he took him off on the 80th minute yesterday to try Elanga. So we need Ronaldo match fit because we need an option. We can't keep biting off our nose to spite our face. And I think yesterday, if Ronaldo hadn't been suspended, he would have come on with 30 minutes to go because that's how, toothless we were up front in the second half. So Ronaldo and Maguire need to play on Thursday. Now that will cause arguments, debate, I know, but that squad is wafer thin. Like if Dalot gets injured, what are we doing? Varane gets injured and Maguire's back. Casemiro gets us sent off and it's McTominay back at CDM. Rashford has a bad game, we've got nothing. Sancho's playing bad, we've got nothing. We are 5 or 6 players away from being competitive, in my opinion. I think we've had a glimpse in the last 2 games of how we can play, and it looks great. But I'm looking upstairs to the Glazers again, and I'm going, please leave. Please let owners take over this club who want to invest in it, because we've got the right manager. And if he could have another 5 or 6 players like Potter's going to get at Chelsea, I think Chelsea and Man United are about there at the moment. I think what's going to happen over the next year is Chelsea are going to go here and we're going to go like that. Because Potter's going to get the consistent investment. People will say, well, you've spent 200 million. We need to spend about $1 billion on that team. So it's 200 every transfer window. And it was to stop. What did Murta say? We don't anticipate the same level investment again as we've had this summer. Idiots. And you know it's going to happen. That team, I'm not going, woo, yeah, amazing, mate, yeah, come on. We spent 200 million. That team needs, you know how much Klopp spent on Liverpool from start to finish? Hundreds of millions of pounds. Hundreds of millions. Pep spent over $1 billion. That United side, from worst Premier League side ever to winning the league, needs about 500 to £1 billion spending on it. And we're going to stop at 200. And that's what worries me. You give Ten Hag the money, I believe he'll deliver the big titles. You don't give him the money, I think we will struggle. And you can see that happening. You can see it happening a mile off. We've had a glimpse of what we can play like under Ten Hag. We can dominate good teams. But we won't be able to dominate good teams when we start losing 2 or 3 good players because we haven't got the depth. Just hope Maguire doesn't make in the first team. I feel way more comfortable with Lindelof and Martinez. Daniel, it will be Maguire for the heights. I'd be stunned if it isn't. There's an argument we need another quick centre-back as urgently as a new striker, says Charlie. Charlie, I've been saying this for a few weeks now. We need a centre-back. It's not lost on me, and I don't think it's lost on anybody who analyses the way we're playing at the moment, that press, you get people who think that the press is because Rashford's quick. Rashford can run around, he could do sprints around Stamford Bridge and the press wouldn't work with him. It doesn't even work because of Sancho, Anthony and Rashford. That press is working because of the backup of Bruno and Eriksen or Fred, and then Shaw and Dalot, and then Casemiro and Varane and Martinez. The press is the team. You watch the Spurs game in the first 35 minutes against Chelsea. It's not Rashford who's leading the press. It's not Sancho who's leading the press. It's the whole bloody team. And actually, the people in any team, the people that lead the press is the midfield. The midfield lead the press because they push the fullbacks up and they move themselves, which forces the centre-backs up. Now, we lose Varane, and I saw it in the second half. Chelsea were playing with a front three in the second half. They had Mount, let's say Aubameyang and Sterling, although I know they changed. Same thing happened against Spurs. Kane was on Martinez, Son was on Varane. At Chelsea, Aubameyang and Sterling, I think Sterling was on Varane and Aubameyang was on Martinez. We were going 2 for 2. The old days, Rio and Vidic, we were going 2 for 2. Our centre-backs were saying, push on, we'll go 2 for 2. I've not seen United do that for years. No, I've not seen United do that for years. To say to the midfield and the fullbacks, you push forward, we're going 2 for 2. Martinez and Lindelof will never go 2 for... Maguire and Lindelof would never go 2 for 2. We used to talk about, Victor the Vacuum and Harry the Hoover, sucking in the fullbacks, deep line, 2 in front of them. They will never go 2 for 2. So my concern now is, with Varane out, will we even be able to press anymore? Or will we go back to the counter-attacking football? It's a shame because we haven't got the profile of centre-backs that we need. You look at Liverpool, I know they've got problems, but if Van Dijk's injured, they can play Matip. If Gomez is injured, they can play Konate, if they're fit. And they're all very similar. We don't have enough players. This is a great point. We don't have enough players in that squad who can play the way that Ten Hag wants to play. If Delo gets injured, Wan-Bissaka can't do that job. At left back, Shaw and Malacia can do the same thing. At centre back, nobody can do what Martinez and Varane does. Lindelof and Maguire are not that. What we need to do is buy centre backs that if Varane gets injured, whether it's Timber or whoever comes in, they can play the same way. If Casemiro gets injured, you go from having a midfielder who can average 60, 70 passes per game to McTominay who averages 30. That's going to drastically drop off your ability to press and have the ball. So that's stage 2 for Ten Hag. Now, I'm going to watch Arsenal this afternoon, and I've seen the journey. You start off like Ten Hag, and you get glimpses. Then you've got to sell players and buy players, and then gradually you get there. I mean, Arsenal haven't even got the bench they need to have yet, but they've got the first 11, and yeah, it's going to take time, but he's got to be given the money to bring in the players. This board are saying to Ten Hag, but you've got Harry Maguire, you've got Wan-Bissaka, you've got Scott McTominay. You don't need players, but they don't understand football. These players make us play a completely different way if we have to play them. He needs a squad of players that can play his system. Imagine it. I mean, it's such a novel concept, isn't it? Having a squad of 22 players that can all play the same way. We've got 8 or 9 players that can play the way Ten Hag wants to, and about 14 who can't. Even yesterday, there's 2 players on that pitch that can't play the way that Ten Hag wants to, and I don't need to name them. Imagine Bailly with Martinez would have been a great backup whilst Varane rests. Yeah, well, Liam, I don't think you're wrong there. With Lindelof in the team, we'll see more long balls bypassing the midfield, says Matthew. I support ex-players. Someone has set his example for his professionalism, all of a sudden broke. I think definitely it's not his mistake then, says Dev. It was Lindelof and Martinez that played against Everton and played really well, says Daniel. I'm telling you now, Daniel, I reckon it'll be Maguire. What about Twan Sebi, says Long, not fit. And as an outlandish as it sounds, I would trust Aaron Wan-Bissaka at centre-back over Maguire, says Charlie Max. I don't know about that. I don't know about that, to be fair. I really don't. What else do I want to talk to you about? Yeah, just a quote here just about Varane as well. That he said that Varane's history is not in his favour about injuries, but since I've been here, he's been in incredible shape and he's done incredible in the games. We're going to miss him. We'll see what has happened and we'll support him as a team. I think the Varane injury at the moment is... I think there's 3 players at the moment that I think are irreplaceable in that team, and I'm probably going to shock you here. There's 3 players in that team that I think are completely irreplaceable, and I think every other position you can get by. Look, even De Gea. I think De Gea's been fantastic, but goalkeepers, you could get by with Dubravka. He might cost us a few goals, he might not, but you could get by. In fact, there's 4 players, actually, because I think Delo has become irreplaceable because we don't have a backup. Left back, we're fine. Sancho's position, we've got cover. Even Anthony's position, I think we could get by. Up front, we can definitely get by if everybody's fit. even Bruno's position, even Eriksen's position. But the 3 positions for me where I think that's going to have a big impact on us: Varane, Martinez, Casemiro, and Dalot to a certain extent. Those 3 players provide the platform. They provide the platform for a strong defence. They provide the platform for a high press. I think those 3 players, you take them out of the team, it's going to hurt us. The question is, how much is it going to hurt us? Now, fortunately, Varane could be back for Christmas. And our next few games, we've got, correct me if I'm wrong, Sheriff should win that. West Ham at home, massive game against Sociedad away. Then I think we've got Villa, and then Villa in the Carabao Cup, and then Fulham. So, will we take 9 points? Probably not, but we should take 7 or 6. So, yeah, they're probably not the worst games in the world to be missing people like Varane. But I think it will. My fear is, and I don't want to predict this, but I'll do it anyway, I don't think we're going to see the performances we've seen against Chelsea and Spurs over the next few weeks, because I really do think that losing people like Varane will damage us. The question is how much. And look, Sam says Varane without a World Cup actually plays into our favour. The problem with Varane is, and we all know what the problem with Varane is that injury came from nowhere. Came from absolutely nowhere. It was just completely and utterly about being a bit injury prone. It's the same problem with Martial. We saw it with Cavani as well. These players that basically are injury prone can pick up an injury in training or in a match at any moment. And, you know, Varane is on a completely different level to Maguire and Lindelof, and the drop-off is going to be huge, but we've got to prepare for this better. The club cannot say to Ten Hag, well, if Varane gets injured, you've got to use Maguire or Lindelof. The drop-off is massive, and the style of football will be different. We've got to be in a position, like Man City, where if Diaz gets injured, they've got Stones, Aki, Akanji, Laporte. They've got 5 centre-backs who can all play the way they want to play. Liverpool have got 4 centre-backs who can play the way they want to play. Chelsea have got about 5 centre-backs. Spurs, I think, have got 4 or 5. We've got 2 centre-backs who can play the way we want to play and 2 centre-backs that can't. And one of the ones that plays the way we want to play is injury-prone. We've got to get the players in to rotate and solve problems when we get injuries. Dalot out of this team is different. Varane, Martinez out of this team were different. Casemiro out of this team were very different. That's the next step. And I know we can't have it all at once, but when you see what we did against Spurs and you see what we did against Chelsea, it makes you very impatient. And it makes you look to that board and the Glazers and go, get out, because we're onto something here. And so many of us knew this. This is why we wanted Ten Hag. We believe he can build this club, but he cannot build this club if he hasn't got 20 players that can rotate and come in and out of the team. And at the moment, I think he's got 9 players that can play the way he wants to play, and the rest of them need moving on and replacing. And we haven't got the owners for that. I mean, they're going to take 2 years to draw up plans for a stadium that's rusting before our eyes. So, look, I'm massively impressed with what United have done under Ten Hag, but I'm massively frustrated that this might just end up being a glimpse, because we will start to drop off because we haven't got the depth we need. A proper football club this January would be bidding for Timber, they would be bidding for Gakpo, and they would be bidding for a right back. We'd be buying those 3 players if we were Chelsea in January, because we need them. And we need them now. I heard somebody say yesterday, the interesting thing is, Ten Hag has shown the board that he's the right man for the job. The big question is, will the board buy the players in January to let him get what he needs to achieve in this season, or will they just wait for the summer and see how it goes? Well, we know what the answer's going to be. Will we buy the players in January to give us that kickstart? I mean, look, Spurs might fall away in January. Chelsea might fall away. Liverpool might not come back. Top 4's there for the grab like it was last January, and we did nothing. You know we're going to wait for the summer. This bloody club frustrates me so much. Last January, if we'd bought a couple of players in, we might have got Champions League football. Spurs and Arsenal were battling not to get it while we fell apart. I'm telling you, January, if we had a couple of players in, we could really get top 4. But I think our biggest problem is going to be the board. I do. I think the board are going to be the problem, and ultimately the Glazers. If they don't buy in January, we're going to have games where Casemiro's injured, where Martinez is injured, where Varane is injured, and the team's going to drop off because of it. Literally drop off. That high line and high press will drop because those centre-backs, when they haven't got Varane and Martinez, will go... You saw it in the last half an hour when Varane went off. United's line dropped by about 20 metres at times. And you know why it did? Because it's in Bruno's head. It's in Eriksen's head. It's in Rashford's head. It's in Deleu's and Shaw's head. I can't push up anymore because I haven't got Varane and Martinez. I've got Lindelof and Martinez. And Lindelof isn't Varane. And he can't be left on his own. We visibly became more defensive when Varane came off. And it will visibly impact the way we're playing. We've got to get the right players in. And the club have got to back Ten Hag because for me, he's shown exactly what he's all about. Which brings us back into the circle, really. That I think the criticism of Ten Hag is bloody ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Although, as I say, in life, I do also think that, some of the stuff that Keane said about scoring goals is right. We shouldn't forget that Rashford's missed loads of chances. Anthony was showboating a bit in the second half, and Sancho never turned up again. I think that those front three are not getting the scrutiny they deserve because the rest of the team has been so good. But we've got to be better in the final third. I just wish Martial could get bloody fit. I really do. Mark, we could play Luke Shaw at centre-back. You'd have two left-footers at centre-back then, though. There are ways, David, but it's going to be Maguire. I'm convinced it will be. Anyway, look, the plan for today, 7 o'clock tonight, Fan Forum. I'm presenting it. Ricky's on it, so I'm looking forward to that. Interesting to see what Ricky's got to say. 7 o'clock tonight. 2 o'clock, I'm on That's Football for Southampton versus Arsenal watch-along. Make sure you tune in for that. And don't forget, Christmas jumpers available for pre-order. They're knitted. They're fantastic. When they're gone, they're gone. We do ship worldwide. Links in the video description. Get your orders in today. And make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe. Get your comments in below. I'll speak to you in a little bit. I'm sure it's going to be a cracking show at 7. And